Good morning and welcome to the Hampton Roads Messengers Meet the Author series. This morning we have with us Deborah Frye and Kimberly Bray. Would you ladies, we can start with Deborah. You can introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much, Angela, for having me on this wonderful platform. Again, my name is Deborah Frye with Grief Care Consulting. I am the person, the bridge that will help you helping you through your grief, no matter what your deep sadness is. I will help you from the broken side of grief back over to some assurance, some self-care, some tools to help you get through the grief and to help you cope through your grief. I'm also an author of 2 books. My first book is Grieving Under Grace, which is a wonderful nugget book. It's just not talking about the death of a loved one, but it also talks about different things that we grieve about that we don't think of. Grieving over self-shame, grieving over the unexpected, grieving over loss of loved one, grieving over loss of friendships, grieving over hardships. So there are a lot of things that we grieve about on a regular basis that we do because it's just so natural for us. And then my second book is for our little hearts, our children. What about me? I'm sad too. So this book, it helps our children to understand their deep sadness. It gives them a tool of what grief is at an early age. It helps them with their emotion and how to cope with different emotions as they are coming up as little ones. And I really believe that it will help them grow into healthy teenagers and healthy adults. So that's, I've been married for almost 35 years. I have been walking people through grief and through how to cope for the last 22 years. And I love it. It is my purpose and it is my passion for being here on this earth. I truly believe that.
Thank you so much. We're looking forward to hearing more about your books. But first, we'd like to hear from Kimberly Bright. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and your books?
Hello, everyone. Again, I'm Kimberly Bright. I am a certified life coach and the CEO of Bright Life Coaching, LLC. I am married with 3 adult children. I am retired. I'm a retired educator with over 30 years in the field of education. I am an author, a speaker, an educator, and a life coach. I am the author of this book, You Were Not Created to Live This Way, Facing Your Fears, One Faith Step at a Time. And it is my desire to help any and everyone to achieve any goals that they would like to reach, one faith step at a time.
All right. Deborah, would you mind reading us an excerpt from your book?
Okay.
Are you going to read from both of them, or?
I can read from both of them. I can read a little something from both.
Okay.
Okay. This is something that I wrote on grieving over terminal illness. Grieving over terminal illness. And I said terminal illness is different from other diseases. You have to get in touch with your own feelings before you can start helping your loved one or anyone else. You will go through so many different emotions, such as anger, denial, helplessness, to name a few. You feel as if you have absolutely no control. You go from saying, this is not happening, to saying, this is happening. How can I stop this? Hearing the words, you have a terminal illness, can be the most shocking and unimaginable news ever. You have 3 months or 6 months or 9 months to live. Most people will go from home to handling the end of life business, which I call death business. All right, so that's some things I have out of my Grieving Under Grace. And then What About Me? I'm Sad Too, for our little hearts. And in this book, I just teach the children what grief is. I teach in simplicity when I teach children about grief. And I teach them that grief is just deep sadness. Grief is just deep sadness. And I have a declaration page to them where I say, as adults, our grown-ups, we don't mean it. But sometimes we grown-ups forget that you are sad too. We are sorry for that, and we never mean to make you feel that way. Remember, it's okay to feel sad, confused, and not be able to control when you are crying. You are never alone and can talk to us about anything you want. We promise to listen. Another word for the way you're feeling is called grief. Do you know what grief means? Grief is deep sadness. And then you have the picture here of what deep sadness could look like as a child so that they can identify with their emotion with that.
Thank you for that. You're doing great work, I know. And I know it's really needed right now with close to 300,000 Americans having passed over the last 8-9 months.
That's unbelievable.
Yes. And so I know there's a great need for your work now, but is there a standard? I'm sure it ranges for people who are dealing with grief. And what I know, there's not anything probably that you can say is normal for a grieving period, but how long do you think just the standard amount of grief? How long would you say that?
Believe it or not, there is no time frame because everyone is different. The way I handle grief could be totally different from the way you or Kim handle grief. Me grieving over my mother could take me years and years and years, where it may just take you a few months to kind of get yourself back together. But grief is just one of those emotions that when you think you got it pegged, a smell or a sighting or a holiday could hit you and it would flood you with grief all over again. So that's why it's very important to learn how to cope with it, learn how to sit in it and be still in it and process it properly. So there is no time frame. I don't think anyone would give you a time frame about grief because it's all different for each and every one of us.
And now to talk about children again, what are some of the things that we can do for children to ease their grief or to help them understand it?
The number one thing I think that we can do to help children through grief is to be the first partaker of it, to show them what it looks like to cry. Let them know that it's okay to be sad. Give them a space to be able to share their emotion. And when that happens, I always tell the grown-up that you have to be ready for what you're going to be hearing, because a lot of times when kids, they are raw in their emotions. So they could say something that would shock you to pieces based on how they're feeling and how they're processing their emotions. So that is a very important part that I do believe. Giving them outings and activities where they can write. I believe as soon as kids are able to write and understand, give them a journal so that they can put their scratching in, and they can start early journaling and put their heart on the paper. I'm very big about putting your heart on the paper, getting it out of your head on the paper. Read it back to yourself is some of the best therapy you'll ever get, I believe.
I believe in journaling as well. I think it is great therapy. And then being able to go back, years later and look at your thoughts and how you were feeling. And you may go through a similar situation, and then you can go back to that journal and look at how you dealt with it, some of the things you did right, some of the things you did wrong. Of course, there's probably no wrong way to grieve, but you can definitely be able to look back at some of the things that did help you. I wanted to remind the audience that we have a chat and that you're able to go into the chat. You can ask questions in the chat. Let us know if you would like to come on camera and ask your questions, or if you just want to just have us ask it. So you could just leave it in the chat. All right. Thanks so much again, Deborah. And
You're welcome.
Kimberly, are you ready to read an excerpt from your book?
Yes, I am. And so this is chapter 1 of my book, Why Am I Living in Fear? Yes, it's true. Fear can definitely be crippling. Whatever that fear is, it's stopping you from living your best life to the fullest. It's stopping you from living your best life. You tell yourself that you can't do this or you can't do that because of the certain reason. You name it, whatever you name it. But you really want to do many things because they are fun and they bring you joy. But okay, what's the BUT? What's stopping you? The what ifs. What if this happens or that might happen? It can truly be exhausting thinking this way most of the time. You may even find yourself trying to counteract these things from happening. That sounds exhausting and cumbersome. And I know firsthand how it feels. I spent the latter part of my 30s and all of my 40s in a cloud of fear. Most people experience some fear in their lives, and it's normal. However, to wake up almost every day experiencing fear isn't normal. For me, it began after my diagnosis of thyroid cancer. I was a young 35-year-old wife, mother. I was working on my master's degree in education when it all began to go downhill for me. I started losing weight and my hair was getting thin. I thought it was all due to stress. Then I noticed a small lump in my neck. I mentioned it to my doctor because thyroid disease ran in my family. My doctor at the time didn't think it was anything to be concerned about. As it grew larger, I had to insist that that lump in my neck be examined by a specialist. Well, a biopsy later, it was confirmed that the lump was a goiter and that the goiter was cancerous. Imagine that, me with cancer. It was the scariest thing that I ever have encountered in life. You see, my mother had succumbed to cancer at the tender age of 33. It seemed that I would have to do the monster cancer battle as well. I knew that I would fight it with everything that I had with the help of the Lord. I was raised in the church and I had great faith in God. I began to walk the battlefield of my life. I didn't know that I would face fear about just about every day from that time on. What would follow would be a true test of my
Wow.
faith.
Of
Now I
course,
can
we
go
want to
on,
know
but
how
I'll
you're
stop
doing
right
now.
Much better. I will tell you that you can get to the other side. There is hope. I like to tell people about this acronym that I came up with. I hope you can see it. HOPE. Hold on because pain ends. The H is for hold, the O is for on, and hold on. Pain ends. And so it can take, as Deborah was talking about the grief, it can take a process of over a decade, or it could be a year, or it could be, it just, depends on how you are able to process through it. And I too believe in journaling. In fact, Deborah and I both have inserts in our books where the reader can journal and follow us along each chapter's journey. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, it's indeed a process.
Now, what do you think are some of the biggest things that stand in the way of people's reaching their goals?
Their own inability to follow through. That's one of the things that I ask my clients when I first get started with them is, what would cause you not to reach your goal? Because I'm the coach and you have to do the work. And when we set up the SMART goals, we set them up in mind with an action plan that you have to follow through. And we measure those goals. We don't just set goals, we measure the goals. We make sure they are realistic. We make sure that you're going to stick to it. We make sure that you're going to follow through. So when I come back to another coaching session with you, I look to see if you've done your homework, if you've been able to actually implement the plan that we came up with, or rather that you came up with, and that I'm coaching you through.
Okay, that sounds like some really good advice. I see in the chat, a couple of people have questions. I see Alexis. She had a question. Let me see if we can get her on to ask her question. In the meantime, Deborah, how have you noticed like your business? I guess you're getting a lot more business now with everything that's been going on with COVID. And is it different from the normal grieving that you would, I keep using that word normal, but the grieving that you've seen pre-COVID?
Yeah, well, yeah, it is a little different because, kids are home. So we have to talk about grief when it comes to isolation, being lonely, not being around classmates. And then we also dealing with grownups. Have to talk about grief because domestic violence is at an all-time high right now because us husbands and wives gotta live together for real now. So you have different aspects of grieving and going through different things. And on top of that, then you have all of the death that is happening. You can't do the normal funerals that we normally do. You can only have maybe 25 people there, where normally we would have hundreds of loved ones there. You're not able to embrace the way that we normally would embrace, which is something that we miss as people, because God has made us to just be touchy-feely, caring people for one another. So you're not able to give that embracing. You're not able to care for people the way you normally would care for them. So this pandemic has made us come out of our box, I want to say. It has made us to be more thoughtful of what we have to do to try to get the same result of caring and showing compassion and showing our love for one another. So yes, it has been quite different, the way that we process things now.
And can I ask, who do you think is best to read your book, or who would be a good person to give your book to? Is it people who have just recently lost a loved one? Is it people who have lost a loved one long past, or who do you think?
Every walking soul needs my book. Every walking soul, because we grieve. It's not just death. We grieve about self-shame. We grieve about hardships. We grieve about the unexpected. We grieve about terminal illness. We have different emotions. So it is a good balance of life, right? It's a good balance of life. What we deal about, we're so used to just tucking all sorts of emotions under our arm, putting on our lipstick as women and putting on that Kool-Aid smile. And we are on our way because we are just trained to handle business, period. We're trained to handle business, and we tuck those emotions away until they resurface again. So, everybody is in need of this book. What about me? I'm sad too. Every funeral home needs it. Every church needs it. Every organization needs it, because children are throughout our entire life. Whether you are a new parent, whether you are auntie, whether you are grandparents, there are tender hearts that we can get this book for to help them out at a tender age. And I find that that's something that we don't have in our community a lot. You know, there are a plethora of books, but we don't do this kind of learning. We gather and gather, but we don't train ourselves on losing. So I think that is a balance that we need to add.
And that's definitely one of the reasons that we wanted to feature you today, because we
Thank
knew
you.
that the information that you're sharing is very important always, and especially right now.
Thank you.
So do you find that teachers are using the book, or I think it would be great for teachers?
Yes, I do have some teachers using the book. Before we went into this pandemic, I was actually in the process of speaking with principals of schools and that kind of thing, which will resume once we get back to a normalcy. But yes, teachers are using it. I have parents that are using it. I just sent my book to Canada for another person that teach grief to use it. And son who is grieving, so I sent my children's piece for her as well. So yes, teachers, I've gone into schools to teach during the classes library time. So I've been into schools, I've been into corporate offices. So everybody needs this training. CEOs down to the regular workers need the training.
Okay. I see Alexis has her question in the chat now, and she wanted to ask you, Deborah, if you are someone who deals with so many different levels of emotions and energies constantly, especially during this time period. How do you keep yourself in high spirits and not become drained by all the many lives you encounter?
Well, I tell people all the time that every counselor needs a counselor. So I have an amazing girlfriend that whenever I need her, I call her. She soothes me right out. And then I use some of the self-help tools that I teach people to use. I love nature. So I can go outside and sit and look. If you look at my Facebook page, you'll see just pictures of the sky, because that does wonders for me. Doing walks, reading. So there are a lot of things that I do. Going and get an ice cream, 25-cent ice cream with my husband. There are a lot of things that I do that are very simple, very inexpensive, that bring me peace. So I tell people a lot of times when we're grieving, we don't think of the simple things that we can do to balance ourselves back out. I pull away from social media when I have to. I can go a week or so and not speak or talk to any of my girlfriends. And they call me and ask me, what are you doing? And I tell them I had to go down under to get myself together. I put myself in timeout. And I write about that, grieving over broken relationships. I write about that sometimes you have to put your girlfriends and yourself in timeout to make sure that your relationships are built really good.
I know that's true. And I used to be able to do that, but now I don't even, with a business, I can't find the time to put myself in timeout as much as I want to do that.
At night, when you're home by yourself and it's time to go to bed, put on some sweet music. Listen to the ocean. I mean, there are so many soundscapes. There's so much out there. Listen to somebody read love stories. I don't know, whatever you like to hear. Those things are out there on audio to give you peace, to help you. So there's always time for you, Miss Angela. Always time for you. Self-care is very important.
And I say that, but I do have something I've written about. Pushing the easy button, and sometimes you just have to do that. Sometimes you just have to have that, order in, or of course, we haven't been doing that much of that during COVID, but, I talk about all the shortcuts that you need to take when you find yourself short on time. So you can take care of yourself, definitely. So, Kimberly, Can you tell us who would benefit from reading your book?
Just about any and everybody, as Deborah said, that because many people go through fears and they don't talk about it. So this is a way that they can live through it. In my book, You Were Not Created to Live This Way, and process through it. But yeah, this is a book for everyone. I wouldn't say children, maybe high school, ages 21 on up, maybe. High school would be good because they could also read it and process it. But yes, everyone would benefit, excuse me, from reading this book. And particularly, even if they're not going through fear, it's also shame, doubt, loneliness, depression, because God did not create us to live this way in those types of things. And there is a way out. And I want people to know that when they are going through, they are not alone, and there is a way to process out of it. And I tell my clients all the time, you wake up that morning, maybe you start your day with a positive affirmation, but that wave just comes, hits you, that depression wave out of nowhere, it just comes. So what are you going to do? Are you going to sit with it, or are you going to change your mindset? Because mindset matters. And if you get up and you are not feeling at your best, then what can you do? What can you do to change that around? And so these are some of the things that I talk about in my book, as well as Deborah just mentioned, self-care. Self-care is paramount. We have got to find a way to take care of ourselves. And I'm just so grateful that now the platform is out there for mental health. Tarajani P. Henson has just gotten a new program coming on to talk to people, particularly in the Black community, about mental health, because we don't do a good job of taking care of ourselves mentally. We always hone in on our physical needs. We go to the gym, we exercise, we even try to eat right. But in terms of our mental needs, we don't do a very good job, and we've got to do a better job of taking care of ourselves mentally. And it's okay to talk about it. I didn't want to talk about it for a long time. I didn't want to tell people that I experienced panic attacks, that I was having anxiety, because I thought, oh, it's going to be taboo. They're going to think, I'm mentally crazy or something. But as Deborah said earlier, I like what she said about, we put on that lipstick, we get dressed up, and we put that smile on, and we go out there, and no one would have ever known what I was going through. I was hiding it all and hiding it very well. But it just began to weigh on me, and I had to get to the bottom of it. I had to actually teach myself how to come out of it. And so in the book, I give you some practical tools that you can use. And I talk about identifying the triggers and what you can do after you identify the triggers to train your brain to think about things differently. Mindset, I'll say it again, mindset matters. And it's all in here. It's right in your head. And you have the ability to change your thoughts. You have the ability to change your whole day if you would just go ahead and process,
Kimberly,
through it.
I did want to ask you, do you have any examples of feedback that you've gotten from people, and also different situations that you've helped people out of?
Yes. Early on when I wrote the book, one young lady called me and she said, just the title of your book changed my whole day. She said, I looked at your book, You Were Not Created to Live This Way. And she said, I had been living in shame, because she said, I could not walk through my den area. She called it her den area. I mean, some of us may call it our family room, but she said, I couldn't even walk through it. It was so much stuff. And she said, I was feeling shame. She said, that day I picked up the phone, I called my best friend, and she came over. She said, Kim, I took garbage bags full of stuff out of that house. I took things to the thrift. She said, and now I can successfully walk through the room. Another story was when she cleaned out stuff, she found a card that she was supposed to give to the neighbor that had inadvertently been delivered to her. And I don't know if you all saw this. This story made Channel 10 news. The card had been from the young lady's grandmother. And the grandmother had recently passed, and it was just so touching to her to have that card that her grandmother had sent her right around that time when her grandmother had passed. And so she thanked her for giving her the card. And the young lady said, if it wasn't for Kimberly Bright's book, you were not created to live this way. And me thinking about the shame that I was going through, she said, I didn't even want anyone to come to my house because of the way that den area was. She said I couldn't even walk through it. So that was just one story. And another story that I received from a young lady was that my book helped her to realize that what she was going through, she wasn't alone in it. She was going through panic attacks, and she said, and that she began to use some of the practical tools, and little by little, she's coming around, and now she's a client of mine, so I can't say her name, but yes, it's changing her life for the best.
So, Deborah, I'd like to ask you the same question, like about feedback that you've received and some of the specific situations that have happened where you've been able to help people.
For me, my most favorite chapter in my book is Grieving Over Self-Shame. I talk about my relationship with my sister, my family. And I had one of the seniors in church walk up to me and said, Deborah, thank you so much. She said, because your chapter over self-shame, it delivered me. She said, my sister and I have not spoken in years. She said, and my sister and I, we just didn't have a good relationship, and she didn't want to see me and I didn't want to see her. She said, but after I read your book and our stories were so similar, she said, I drove to New York. I didn't tell my sister I was coming, and I knocked on her door. And when she opened up the door, we both cried and forgave one another. And that, if I had no other stories, that alone, it gave me such a heartwarming feeling. The stories where I wrote in my book how losing a child, how a mother can sit in the room with those machines going and being able to pray over the machines and sing over those machines. I have parents that reach back out to me with that had children in hospice care at home, and they found themselves doing that exact thing, which created joy to get them through that grief that they were going through. So there are so many stories that people have put on my page or inboxed me or just to identify with. So it lets us know, like Kim said, that what we have gone through. And I tell people all the time, we are far more alike than we are disalike. No one is going through anything that a million other people have not gone through. So when you write your authentic story about things that you've gone through, you're going to tap into people, everyday people. You're going to tap into everyday people. So, and those stories come back. So that's very exciting to me.
All right, that sounds good. We have another question for both ladies, and we can start with you, Kimberly. Carol asked, what is the best pointer you can give to people who are fearing death or divorce?
First of all, you have to face it. You have to face the fact that it is coming. And I think for the most part, what was really deterrent to me was not trying to live through what was going to happen. If you know something is coming, you're going to have to live in that moment and develop a way to get through it. You're going to have to develop a way that you can process through that death or through that divorce or whatever you're fearing. live through that moment. It's like a wave. It is like a wave. And once you get started and you go over that curve and come under it, you can't come out of it. There is hope. And so that's what I would say. Face it one baby step at a time, and you can get through it. And reach out. Please reach out to professionals like myself, life coaches, or like Deborah, grief consultants, and let us help you to
That
get
sounds
through
like great
your
advice.
fears.
Let the professionals help you.
Very good.
I mean, it's good to have friends that you can talk to, but we know friends don't always give the best advice. But it is definitely good to have friends that you can
True.
lean on. But seek out a professional. Yeah, definitely. And Deborah?
Repeat the question again.
Okay. Can you give a pointer?
Kim's answer was so good. I got engrossed in everything she was saying.
What pointers do you have for people who are fearing death or divorce?
Yeah. Well, what Kim had explained, I'll call it grief forecast. You know that it's coming. And I tell people that grief happens when it happens. We can always plan for it, but you don't know how you're going to react to it until it actually happens. But while you're preparing for it, you can always read up on it, because grief and things that hurt us is something that we don't want to deal with. So we don't want to read it. We don't want to invest in it. We don't want to talk about it. So I think that is good right now, while we're in this pandemic. Get you a good read. Grieving Under Grace. Get you a good read. We're not made to live this way. I have Kim's book. I've read it. So get you something positive and some positive reads. Everything that deals with grief, death, hardships, it's not all bad. There are some good nuggets. So I tell people to go and find the good nuggets in the grief that you're dealing with. So get you some good reads. Like Kim said, reach out to professionals, reach out to your circle of friends, so that you don't become isolated. So, and look at those that have already come through. And they are on the other side and they're doing well. I don't say look at people that may have gone through a bad divorce and they're still fighting their spouse. Look at somebody that have successfully gone through what you are going through, because there are always good examples out there for us to follow. So you just have to be intentional. You have to be intentional about seeing the good in the grief. It has to be intentional.
Okay, that is great advice. Also, can you tell us how people can get your books? Like people who may want to order it for the holidays, and is there still time for them to receive it? Or where they can get it from, if there's a local bookstore or online?
Online for me, of course, Amazon.com. You can find both books, Grieving Under Grace, and then What About Me, I'm Sad Too, on Amazon, and you'll probably have them in a few days. Or you can DM me your address. You can Cash App me, PayPal me, and I'll put that information in the links. I can, if you're close, I do social distancing drive-bys. If you're close, if not, I can order it and send it to you. So there are tons of ways to get a book. I would recommend that you get something, a keepsake piece that is just not a toy that the children are going to play with and throw away in a week. It's something that they can go through over and over and over again, these books.
Okay, Kimberly, how can we pick up your book?
Yes. And as Deborah said, get a book or two and give it to someone that you love and care about, because this makes a great keepsake, as she said. You can purchase my book also on Amazon.com. You can get it on my website at kbrightlifecoaching.com. You can also Cash App me with your address and I'll send it to you. You can send it through your money through PayPal with your address, and I'll send it to you that way. So yeah, there are a variety of ways that you can get my book as well, and I will
And
also
people will be
type it
able
in
to
the chat.
receive it by Christmas.
Yes, most definitely. If they order now, we
Yeah,
have
both
time
of
to
these
get it before
books,
Christmas.
well, all three of them seem like they would make amazing Christmas gifts. I know I'm going to get some for my family and friends. We'll also put a link on Hampton Roads Messenger.com where people can go and look for these books and be able to reach out to these ladies. So not just for the books, but also for their counseling services. Did you all, Deborah, did you have anything, final thought?
Yes, I wanted to let people know that whatever you're dealing with, whatever deep sadness, you are able to get through. You're never alone. Reach out to your circle of friends. You have myself here, you have Kim, you have Angela. So the excuse of I don't have anybody has been taken away from you from that point on, because you have us three. Where we can direct you where you need to go. If we don't have the answer, we'll find it for you. And I want you to know that you are able to endure, you are able to overcome, and you're able to begin again, whatever you need to begin in. Okay. So there is a way of always getting out. There's always a way of escape. And if you should get stuck, call one of us, DM one of us, and we will be right there with you.
And one of my favorite sayings is let go and let God. Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
You can always, you have the three of us, but you also have God. So,
yes.
That's absolutely true. Yes. And so I wanted to say that God did not create us. Once again, I want to reiterate that He did not create us. We're not created to live in fear, shame, doubt, or anything that you may be going, whatever you want to call it. And let our stories be an to you to know that whatever you're going through, you can come out on the other side. And so be inspired today. Get our books, share our books, and reach out to us if you need us. We are here, ready. I know I am, and I know
Yes.
Deborah is ready to assist you.
Yeah.
You can go again on my website, and I'll put that information in the chat, kbrightlifecoaching.com. And I'm here for you.
thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me,
Yes,
Angela.
it was beautiful,
Thank you so
Angela.
much.
Thank you so much.
Ladies,
Yeah.
for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge and your beautiful spirits with both of us. I mean, with all of us, and both of you sharing that. This has been really a special time, and so many people can
Yes.
benefit from what you've shared. And we are going to keep this on our website, this video, and also, people will be able to access it on social media and YouTube, because I think what both of you ladies are doing is just so great for the community, and I mean the world can benefit from it. So thank you again.
Thank you.
And we look forward to all the great things that you're going to be accomplishing in the future. Do either of you have any aspirations for another book?
Kim?
I do want to do something with children's books. Because I was a teacher for so many years and a reading specialist, I do have a desire to do something in the area of a children's book. I'm still thinking about what I want to do. There's just such a vast need. Bullying is one of them that's near and dear to my heart. So I've been thinking about that. And then self-image, how we view ourselves and how we love ourselves from within. So I'm thinking about that. So stay tuned in the future. I will be children's books.
How about you, Deborah?
Yes, my passion is to have a series of Grieving Under Grace books, and start just maybe talking about the particular subject and putting the meat on that bone in Grieving Under Grace series. Of course, aspirations of doing wonderful speaking engagements and beautiful webinars and all sorts of things that will come along. I do have other books inside of me that I just have to sit down and write for our teenagers and for men, because, you know, men grieve a lot different than women do. So I'll be writing something from the man's perspective of how they cope with different grief and subjects like that. So yeah, so I do have a few other books in me that I will be writing as well.
Okay, I just got a message that there was another question in the chat, but I do not see that. So if that person could type it again, or we can actually ask it offline. Oh, someone said that my mom is currently transitioning to be with the Lord, and I find myself suffering from mild depression. What could I do to help myself and family during this trying time?
Create new beginnings. When my mother was transitioning, and my mother and I, we didn't have the best relationship, but I wanted it to end better. So you have to find ways in yourself. You have to push yourself. You have to press in and find things that will maybe bring joy to you. For instance, when my mother was transitioning, I just sat in her room and I listened to old gospels with her. I listened to things that we both enjoyed. I would give my mother a manicure because she loved to have her nails polished. So I would do things and that would bring my family together as well. I would let them know that this is what we're doing at Mom's today. We're going to all bring a dish and we'll have a potluck. Even with Mom in the room transitioning, it was a time to bring your family together, to get on the same page. And here again, to get you something to read, to build up your spirit about how to care for people that are transitioning, what to expect when people are transitioning, how to care for your own emotion when people are transitioning. So get yourself something to read. And if you find yourself in a depression that you can't get out of, I am available. All of my information is there. Kim is available to coach you out of some things. Angela is available. So you have a mini circle here that we can assist you and be there with you while your mother is transitioning. With me doing this for the last 22 years, there's usually not a question that I can't answer when you have to prepare and plan for the funeral and what to expect when you go to the funeral home. So I have that information as well. So this is a good source, Kimberly and myself and Angela, to where you can get through. You are able to endure, you're able to overcome, and you're able to begin new things, new patterns to change the trajectory of your mindset.
And I would just like to add that at this time, journaling is going to be really a really good thing for you as well. Writing down your feelings, as well as some of the happy and cherished moments that you spent with your mother, so that when it's time to celebrate her life, you'll have it there. So writing those things down now, remembering the times that you all went out on a special trip, just you and your mom, or you and your mom and your sisters, and some of the things that made you laugh, just the cherished times. Write those things down now, so that when, write down some develop some poems that you can share when it is time to celebrate your mom's life. And so having all of that now, then when the time comes, doing all of that now rather, and then when the time comes to celebrate her life, you will have it right there in your journal, ready to share with others the love that you shared with your mom.
Thank you so much. I also want to remind people right now we're in another lockdown somewhat, and we want to be able to still check on people. You're still able to go out during the day.
Absolutely.
And it is essential to check on people, but from a distance, you can go visit elderly people and stay on the porch. Just don't get too close to them and wear your mask. But also remember, young people, they're going through a lot right now. They may seem very strong, but this is so different for them. We have all these life experiences, even though we've never been through anything like this before. Just some of the other experiences we have had throughout our life help us to better deal with a situation like this, something new. But for young people who haven't had as many life experiences, this can be so traumatic for them. So we have to make sure we check on them and make sure that they are healthy, both physically and mentally.
That's so true, Angela. So true. That connectivity is very important during this time of COVID. And people are COVID fatigued, if you will. People are tired of it, and they're letting their guards down. And we have to encourage them to continue to do the things that they were doing when the pandemic started. Continue to wear your mask and stay 6 feet apart, wash your hands and do all that good stuff. Stay in it for the long haul. We're getting to the end of this tunnel. Continue to stay connected with your loved ones via Zoom, any platforms that you can. Pick up the telephone, call them. As you say, you can ride by, wave at them, but we have to stay connected. And we especially have to check on our children. They don't have the coping tools that we have. And recently it broke my heart when I found out a family member of mine was severely depressed, and I didn't know about it until the very end. And she's a child because she's having a hard time coping. So I've made it my business to kind of talk with her and bring her through some of the joys and all of this and some of the things that she can do and that she can develop, and some of the things that she can create during this time. So yes, the children, we really have to check on, and we have to make sure that they're okay, because they don't always express themselves. If you see them looking sad, you might have to ask them, how are you doing today? You might have to do a daily check-in. This summer I worked for a program, I'm gonna keep it real brief, but one of the things that we did was social emotional learning. The program Horizons Hampton Roads, I got to give a quick blurt about them. It's a wonderful nonprofit program, Horizons Hampton Roads, and I love that program. It's a 6-week program, and what we did every day was we did social emotional learning. Check in, give me a color. How are you doing today? Tell me how you feel. And if you are not on green, I want to know why. So we have to do all of those things to check on. And I did that with adults as well. Tell me what color you are today. How are you feeling? Are you blue? Are you, where are you on your mental
Another thing we
health
might want to
checklist?
do is check on coworkers as well. You may not be as close to these coworkers, but you may know that they don't have any family. They may be living alone during COVID, and just, send them a message and ask them how they're doing, just, to make sure they may want to talk or whatever. Just let them know that you're there for them. All right. Well, thank you so much, ladies. Like I said, people will be able to view this video on our website and on social media. So anyone that's listening right now, make sure you let everybody that you know that they can definitely benefit from hearing from these ladies, and they can get that information on HamptonRoadsMessenger.com, on our social media platforms, including YouTube. Thank you so much. And please go to our website so you can hear about the next authors in this series, Meet the Authors. Thank you.